Hi, I'm Andy Johnson. Some personal statistics that you need to know about before we start this show. I'm 50 years old. I'm divorced and remarried. I'm the father of 3 children, adults, and I have a lazy eye. And I don't know why they call it a lazy eye, because that's the most active thing about me. That thing is all over the place. Never stops. We had a hooker in town. She was 400 pounds. Okay, now that's an important thing to know, because in the state of Minnesota, anything over 275 pounds is possession with intent to distribute. So if you got caught with her, it's a felony. Okay, you have her out on the hood of the truck telling you, this isn't for personal use, sir. If you look up my town on Siri, and you say, are there any nice seafood restaurants in town? Siri will come back and it will say, I know no nice seafood restaurants in your town, but there's 12 bars that'll give you crabs. And one of the discussions I had with my mom when I was very young was about girls. Now, my belief was that girls were the end-all and be-all, right? I mean, I was as much of a Casanova as I could possibly be looking like this, okay? I tried my best. You really have to talk fast if you're looking like this and you're trying to pick up a girl. And the discussion with my mom was very simple. It was about sex before marriage. And her belief was just no. No. God says no. You just don't do it. And my argument was, if God had intended for that to be true, why did he make girls so doggone cute? And my mom looked at me and she just said, well, God's not perfect. Sometimes he makes mistakes, honey. My father was a man of few words, but when he spoke, you listened to him. You listened. He didn't say a lot. And I'll never forget what he always said to me from the time I was little. He'd say, son, you know I love you, but you're an idiot. And then he'd laugh and he'd say, you know, I'm kidding, I don't love you. I went back to visit him in Minnesota a couple of weeks ago, and I was in the kitchen, and there was a puddle of water on the floor by the sink. And I said, Dad, I think the dishwasher's leaking. He said, yeah, she had big babies. Another personal statistic, before I forget, on a small railroad in Colorado, I hold a personal record for most derailments. Stands at 7. We were in the siding and you're allowed to nap. You're allowed to go to sleep on your train while you're waiting for another train. So it's night, it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm asleep and my conductor's over here. And I got that very call, UP3077, do you have a copy? And I answered, yeah, it's UP307, go ahead. And I didn't even open my eyes. Nothing. They called again, UP3077, you got a copy? I answered back again. They did not answer. The third time, I got the same thing. I talked to them. They did not answer. My conductor stood up and he said, for God's sakes, man, you're talking to your pack of cigarettes. Now, I had the honor of being able to go out with my 21-year-old for her 21st birthday. If you ever have the chance to do this, you have children?
I do.
How many kids do you have?
5.
You have 5 children, for God's sakes, man. No wonder you're out tonight. How old are your kids?
We got a 20-year-old. There's a 14, 11, 4, and 2.
20, 14, 11, 4, and 2. You ever heard of a board game? I watch TV, there's lots of TV. 500 channels on cable. Jeez. That's awesome. So you're 1 year away from the 21st birthday.
Yep.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Give you a rundown. I took my daughter out, I took my wife out, and I took my other daughter out. $225 bar tab, and that is with the entire bar continuously buying rounds for my daughter. Because what I found out was my daughter, who's not that experienced, in how things are supposed to be in a bar, was buying drinks for other people on my tab. She doesn't know how it works. You're pretty and you're 21. You shouldn't be spending money on booze, right? I forgot to tell her that. Then she fell down. She fell down on the sidewalk outside, and she scun her face. Now, I'm a divorced dad. It doesn't matter how old your children are. You can't send them back to mom dented. I'm drunk. But the whole time I'm just thinking, I'm going to lose my visitation rights to my adult children. I'm not going to be allowed to see my kids. Then she lines us all up against the wall. Me, my new wife, and my older daughter. And she says, I hate you. I hate you. And she looks at me and she says, I especially hate you, Ethel. Ethel. Now that's something that I haven't heard since she was a little kid. She always called me Ethel. Until she was 4 years old, we found out she had a speech impediment, and she'd been calling me asshole the whole time. So my oldest daughter is the safety captain of the family. And I like to do things with my kids, and I try and do as much as I can. A busy dad, I got busy kids. I have a grandson, so everybody's really busy, but we try and get together and we try and do things. And my big idea was I want to take my kids camping. Let me take my kids camping, right? If taking them out for your 21st birthday could be any worse, it would be camping. Sleep in the dirt, shit in a hole. That's it. Do it in your backyard. Just go poop by the tree. Because that's it, right? You'll just save yourself the time. Right? We get all the way up to the campsite. And I got to tell you this, and I'll back up a little bit. We get all the way up to the campsite. Now, everybody in the camping party, have you camped before? Okay, right? Everybody has to have a job, right? Everybody has to bring something. You'll bring a cooler, you'll bring utensils, you'll bring paper plates, right? My oldest daughter was adamant that she would bring all of the cooking utensils. She'll bring the frying pans, she'll bring the spatulas, she'll bring everything. So for 2 days, I cooked hamburgers on a shovel. Who's ready for a hamburger? Well, when you're done with it, Dad, can I use the shovel for a second? I would have brought 2 shovels had I known. Okay, that's all I'm saying, right? Okay, so let's back up a little bit. My daughter called me and she said, Dad, she said, you know, there's things up there in the mountains that could eat you. And I'm really, really worried that you're not taking this camping trip seriously. So I want to ask you a couple of questions, and I want to make sure that we're prepared for this camping trip. First question, Dad. A bear wanders into camp. What do you do, Dad? I said, well, that's simple. I said, if a bear wanders into our campsite, we'll make a bunch of noise, bang some pots and pans together, am I right, Troy? And chances are the bear will run away scared. Tie your food up, do all those things. If the bear does not run away, we'll head down the mountain together to safety. She said, that's a great idea, Dad. Now, my son's idea was bring a gun. No, that's not an entirely bad idea, right? So my son, who's married, he said, well, I have my father-in-law's gun. I said, well, what is it? He said, well, I think it's a 9mm. I said, okay, well, we'll stop on the way and we'll buy some bullets. 9mm bullets. So we stopped and we bought a box of 9mm bullets. When we got to the campsite, we found out it was a 25 caliber. Okay. So we took care of the bear part of it. My daughter asked me again, she goes, Dad, I can ask you another question now. A cougar wanders into camp, what do you do? I said, if she's hot, I'll catch up. My daughter, I gotta tell you this before I forget, my daughter was telling me this wonderful story about a friend of hers. And now, they went to school together in Minnesota. And when that little girl was just a little girl, her parents got divorced. And 20 years later, they found themselves back together. They were dating again. They were happy. They were dating like high schoolers. And then unfortunately he passed away. I mean, he was about my age. He passed away. And they were not living together. They were boyfriend and girlfriend. They were taking it slow. He passed away in bed, and unfortunately she was the one that found him in bed, that mom. And my daughter was telling me the story, and I said, honey, I said, why do you look so sad? She said, Dad, because, you know, that worries me. I said, what worries you? She said, because that could be you, Dad. I said, oh, honey, I'll never date your mom again, don't worry. When I was on the railroad, my son was a senior in high school. And what I always told my kids from the time they were very, very young was kids who don't get good grades go to prison. If you don't get good grades, you're going to end up in prison. And so when my son was a senior in high school, I asked him, I said, kid, how are your grades? He said, Dad, they're fine. I'm going to graduate. Everything's fine. I said, well, you know, where do kids who don't get good grades go? He said, the railroad, Dad. I took my kids back to Minnesota a couple of years ago for Christmas. And it had been 10 years. It'd probably been 10 years since they'd been back to Minnesota for Christmas. They're all adults at this point. And we rented a big van and we drove back. And we really had a good time. I mean, it had been a long time since they'd seen their cousins, since they'd really, really been able to take that kind of time. So we had a really good time. But I realized that my children had really become a part of the Colorado culture. When my mom was cooking Christmas dinner, she asked for pot holders and two of them handed her a pipe. So for Christmas that year, I kind of went all out. I got my parents a 1-week trip to Mexico. All inclusive, all paid. Just wanted to do something nice for them, right? Now, I'm not going to do it again because it took them like a week to poop out the baggies. Now, I had hit rock bottom at this point because my daughter did not live with me. I lived with my daughter. It's completely different. It's completely different. If you live with your daughter, she gets to say things to you like, Dad, you need to start shutting the lights off because the electric bill is too high. Or, as long as you live under my roof. Remember that one? So it was me, my daughter, and a roommate. Her friend, right? So my daughter, and they were both the same age. My daughter and her friend, 23 or 24 years old. They would leave the same time every day at 6:30 in the morning. I would get up at 6:35, and I had the run of the apartment in my underwear. I could do whatever I wanted. Everybody's gone. Except one day when the lady, her friend, had forgotten her phone or something, right? So when I stepped out of my room in my green underwear, I met her friend, face to face. I got nothing to hide, right? So it was a problem. So that night when I came home from work, my daughter and her friend are sitting at the table, and what do I get? I get, hey Dad, why don't you come sit at the kitchen table? We have something to talk about. No. I have been reduced to a 12-year-old boy at this point. I'm like, I don't want to talk. She said, come on, it'll be okay. We're not mad. We're disappointed, but we're not mad. So she said, aren't you driving a little fast? And you know that that's going to be a problem because women are always right. It might take months, but they're always going to be right. But it didn't. It took one day. I got pulled over by the Missouri State Highway Patrol at 2 o'clock in the morning in July. And it was a female cop. So it couldn't be any worse for me, right? And she was a pretty female cop. And as I got my ticket, I was respectful of the cop. And Lora was just kind of not paying attention. She was just fiddling in the frost of the window, not really paying attention. And as we pulled away, I said, sweetheart, I said, what were you doing in the window? She goes, I was writing help. I said, you were writing help? She goes, I was writing help. I said, why would you do that? She goes, I wanted to see you get tased. We got pets. I didn't have pets before. 3 years I didn't have any pets. We got pets. It started out with the cat, right? She came to me and she said, I want a cat. I said, I want a cat. She goes, well, she says, I would like a cat. I said, well, I said, gee, you know, I mean, is there any getting out of this? She goes, not really, but I tell you what, I will give you an opportunity to play a game. If you can figure out a way to say yes to the cat without actually saying yes to the cat, then I'll at least make you feel like, well, you know, maybe you had some say in it. I said, okay. I said, yeah, let's play a game, that's fine. She calls me like 5 minutes later, she drives away, calls me up, and she goes, hey, how would you like a BJ? Right? Okay, what guy wouldn't, right? I said, yeah, I'll get a BJ. She goes, good, that's the name of the cat. Okay, right, fine, that's the name of the cat. But here's the problem. We already had a dog named Threesome and a fish called Finger Up Your Butt. So I should have seen it coming. So when she's gone, I'm in charge of the animals that I didn't want. So she calls me up, she goes, how's the cat? I said, the cat's fine, the cat's doing cat stuff. I haven't even seen the cat for a week, but I'm assuming the cat's somewhere. The cat's safe. Because when she comes back, the cat appears. Okay. She goes, how's the dog? No, I'm annoyed with the conversation already. So I said, the dog kept me up all night eating peanut butter. She said, you're gross. And the dog doesn't even like peanut butter. I said, well, then she really likes dick, because I didn't get any sleep at all. Okay, that's my time for now. I'm Andy Johnson. Thank you.